Towns of Cappadocia. Few houses are as old or as unusual as those in Cappadocia, Turkey. The houses have rock walls, rock floors, and rock ceilings. Their doors and windows are simply openings in rock. Some houses have tall, pointed rock towers rising from their rock roofs. Others have hidden rooms, secret passageways, and tunnels that lead deep underground. Everything is made of rock. Cappadocia is a region of Turkey found in the west-central part of the country. Its cave-like rock houses are famous, and there are thousands of them. The houses are clustered into rock villages and towns. People have been carving and living in these houses for more than 2,000 years. Volcanoes, however, laid the original foundations. Eruptions and erosion. Mount Erciyes looms on the horizon near Cappadocia's rock towns. It is an active volcano and the highest mountain in this part of Turkey. Erciyes's rocky peak is 12,848 feet high. In winter, it is often dusted with snow. Only minor eruptions have shaken Erciyes in recorded history. At times in the distant past, however, Erciyes and other volcanoes near it were much more active. During one or more major eruptions, these volcanoes blasted out enormous amounts of ash. The volcanic ash rained down on the surrounding countryside. It collected in some areas to form large, thick deposits. Over time, this volcanic ash solidified. It hardened into a type of volcanic rock geologists call tuff. In parts of what is now Cappadocia, layers of tuff formed that were hundreds of feet thick. Then, weathering and erosion went to work. Wind and water slowly carved the tuff into ridges, mounds, and sharp pinnacles. The tallest of these slender, soaring rock formations are called hoodoos. Some rise more than 100 feet above the Cappadocian landscape. Some people call hoodoos fairy chimneys because they look like something you might read about in a fairy tale. Hoodoos around the world. You can find hoodoos on almost every continent. Most are formed from sedimentary rock rather than volcanic tuff. All of them, though, are the product of weathering and erosion. Bryce Canyon in the western United States has an abundance of hoodoos. Wind, rain, and ice wedging have carved them out of sedimentary rock that is 40 to 60 million years old. Geologists and visitors have named some of Bryce Canyon's largest hoodoos. One of the most impressive is Thor's Hammer. Carving out caves. No one knows who first carved into Cappadocia's rock formations to make living or hiding spaces. Creating a cave wasn't difficult. Tuff is quite soft before it is exposed to air. Scrape away the hard outer surface and the fresh rock can be cut easily with simple tools. The surface of newly carved rock hardens quickly in dry air. After that, it will keep its shape for hundreds of years. During the 300s, Cappadocia became a destination for many early Christians. It was a place where they felt safe and isolated from the rest of the world. These religious refugees expanded the existing caves into larger rock dwellings. They created rooms for eating and sleeping. They carved out stables for animals and storage areas for food. They cut staircases into hoodoos and formed high towers. The towers had windows that looked out onto the surrounding plains. From these high places, they could see trouble coming from a long way off. Blocks of dwellings grew into villages, then towns. The early Christian settlers expanded underground, too. They dug into underlying tuff, carving out living areas more than 5 stories deep. A maze of tunnels, staircases, and passageways connected different sections. There were even rock ventilation systems for bringing down fresh air from above ground. The underground excavations eventually grew into several dozen towns. They were large enough to shelter thousands of people. If invaders or any other kind of threat appeared, inhabitants of the rock towns above ground headed underground. By the 600s, Christian monks had built more elaborate rock dwellings. They built large monasteries in which to live. These monasteries had sleeping quarters, large kitchens, and cellars for stored food and drink. Each monastery had its own church. At first, the churches were simple and plain. Over time, they became more elaborate. By the 1000s and 1100s, Cappadocian monks were building churches with high arched ceilings and large altars. Artists decorated the walls and ceilings with beautiful paintings. Thanks to the region's dry climate, many of these works of art have survived for hundreds of years with little damage. Preserving the past. In 1985, part of Cappadocia's Rock Town complex was made a World Heritage Site. World Heritage Sites are considered special places that are important to protect. The rock houses of Cappadocia are being carefully maintained to preserve their historical value. Tourists come from all over the world to visit these unique rock towns. Guides lead them through tunnels and passageways, as it is easy to get lost. Visitors can stay in rock houses that have been turned into small hotels. Imagine spending the night in a rock room carved by hand hundreds of years ago. One thing visitors discovered is that there is no need for air conditioning or central heating. Houses made of tuff stay cool in summer and warm in winter. Many people walking the streets of Cappadocia's rock towns are not tourists. They live there, and the rock houses are their homes. The walls and floors are hundreds of years old, but the houses have running water, carpets on the floor, and curtains in the windows. When homeowners make changes, though, they sometimes get a surprise. Some have tried to make new rooms in their rock houses. They've started scraping the walls, only to break through into old caves that have been undisturbed for hundreds of years. The Tuff Carvers of Easter Island. Easter Island is another place famous for structures carved from tuff. Hundreds of giant statues dot the hills of this South Pacific island. The statues, called moai, are partial human figures with large heads, high cheekbones, and heavy brows. Except for differences in height, all the moai on the island look very much the same. The Rapa Nui people, the native inhabitants of Easter Island, carved the moai from tuff. The tuff came from the sides of a volcanic crater near Manga Teravaka, the island's largest volcano. To make the statues, Rapa Nui carvers used blocks of tuff cut from the crater walls. They used sharp stone tools made of basalt to cut and shape the softer rock. The carvers shaped moai right in the wall of the crater. When the fronts were finished, they chipped the huge statues free from the crater wall. Then the moai were moved to a final destination. Scientists are still debating how they think the Rapa Nui moved the moai. However they did it, it was quite a task. The largest moai weigh over 80 tons. The biggest mystery still surrounding the moai is why the Rapa Nui carved them. Some people have suggested that moai were carved to honor chiefs or possibly ancient ancestors, but no one knows for sure.